Yeah, so Donald Trump bitched out. He cucked out. You're not going to believe it. Nothing ever happens, believers. Well, kind of. I'm not necessarily saying you're winning. I like how even CNN, even the hack, like faux centrist, establishment complacent media outlet CNN has a thumbnail where Claudia is delighted and Trump looks like he's tired, you know, because it's pretty indicative. So basically, after saying, and he said this very explicitly, Donald Trump said, there was nothing Canada, Mexico, or China could do to forestall the tariffs. And then, as of this morning, after agreeing to send 10,000 National Guardsmen to the Mexican border, Claudia Sheinbaum managed to get Trump to back off the tariffs for a month, hold a pause on them, which is such an insane walk back. Mexico has to put troops in the border. Who cares if Mexico puts troops in the border? Deploying 10,000 National Guardsmen does nothing. You're already paying for the National Guardsmen. You're not building infrastructure over there.
President Donald Trump just announced he will pause the 25% tariffs on Mexican imports. We have reporters in Mexico City and in the North Lawn of the White House. Let's go straight to CNN's Valeria Leon in Mexico City for the latest. Valeria, midnight was the deadline here where tariffs were supposed to be implemented. They're not now. Why?
So in a surprising shift, tariffs on Mexican goods are now on pause after President Sheinbaum and President Trump reached an agreement. So rather than presenting today Mexico's response to the Trump administration tariffs, President Sheinbaum confirmed that she had a conversation with President Trump this morning, what she described as a long call of 45 minutes to talk about immigration issues and the interest that both countries have in reducing fentanyl consumption. Both governments reached an agreement to secure the border.
So CNN is obviously whitewashing this to Trump's benefit. You have to understand, okay? Mexico is doing nothing here. Putting 10,000 Mexican National Guardsmen on the border does nothing. It does nothing to stop the flow of fentanyl, which comes in through ports of entry via legal U.S. citizens who bribe guards or have like ongoing deals with police and customs to allow them to get through, or they just smuggle it in normally. The guards, they're not spending any more money. They're not using any more infrastructure. They're literally just shuffling troops around. The cost of moving the guardsmen up there is going to be paltry in comparison to the cost of the tariffs. What the tariffs would have cost Mexico. They already have guys up there. And unlike the United States, where every single time you move any soldier anywhere, you spend $50 trillion because you're not allowed to do anything via the government. You have to do everything via contractors. In Mexico, you're just moving guys up there. But people are going to say that's a Trump win. Okay, then say it's a Trump loss. So what? So the right's going to lie? Wow, what a shocker. That's incredible. It's only on pause for a month, Donald Trump's, he's going to keep waving this flag over and over and over and over again, Like, oh, well, this month, what's going to happen? Well, this month, what's going to happen? Claudia Sheinbaum is a smart woman, and Mexico seems ready to deal with the long-term consequences of this administration. They're ready, okay? It's really just a matter of how much time they're giving themselves. If anything, my guess would be that Claudia is going to use the extra month to better shore up the Mexican economy and prepare for the inevitable tariffs. Is the no guns flowing into Mexico promise a smokescreen? That shit ain't never gonna happen, I'm sorry. Stopping the flow of guns? Dude, the illegal trafficking of firearms is happening all over the world. Mexico has a gigantic contiguous border with the United States, the largest firearms manufacturer in the world. There is absolutely no way that shit is ever going to happen. No shot. Musk announced USA got axed completely. Cool, that's the next segment. What if we did them one at a time, I know some of you Dr. Manhattan motherfucking chat are living in time, Slaughterhouse 5 individuals are existing in all times simultaneously. I'm sorry, it's kind of a disability of mine. I sort of take time like one moment at a time, So I'm kind of here and then I'm there. I'm hoping you can join me for a bit, kind of step down to my level for a little bit.
Mexico
this MF follows linear time. This white boy eating beans.
Has agreed on deploying national...
Hate it when I, a white man, go to the theater and a bunch of black teenagers sit down and then get up and leave, and then they turn around watching me still looking at the opening credits, and they're like, this white boy, is he not finished the movie yet? Is he experiencing time linearly? Hey, yo, check this guy out! And I'm like crying,
guards to the Mexico-US border, and the Mexican president said that she asked Trump to cancel tariffs on Mexican products, which Sheinbaum said that Trump agreed to. Mexico's economy minister Marcelo Ebrard will be in charge of this negotiation with US government officials. Let's put the tariffs on pause forever. That's what Mexico's president suggested to Trump this morning, but they agreed to pause tariffs for 1 month. Part of the agreement, she explained, has to do with the U.S. government committing to reducing the traffic arms into Mexico.
This is not going to happen.
Valeria Leon,
that being said, I have to say it does make Trump look extremely weak that the tariffs that he's been dick-waving about for so long were apparently paused on a mutual negotiation. Like, you understand that from like America is a massive and powerful country, so to say nothing's going to change these tariffs are happening no matter what, nothing's going to stop them, and then for Trump to say, okay, I'll pause them for a month, not only on the condition of 10,000 National Guardsmen being brought up to the Mexican side of the border, but also like, yeah, I guess we'll try to reduce firearm trafficking as well. Like, it's so... The 10,000 border guard thing has been done by every administration. Yeah, because it's easy to do. You already have the troops. Unless you're doing the American thing where every time you do anything, you have to fire up the Ospreys. You have to like pay the contractors or whatever. You're paying the troops here. You're paying the troops there. You're not building anything new. You're not like investing in a new department or expanding customs or whatever else. You're just sending troops up there. You know what a National Guardsman can do at the border? Have photos taken of them. That's the limit of their authority. I mean, couldn't Trump use the National Guard? He has. They don't do anything. They can't do anything. We lost 3 Ospreys moving troops to the border. We actually suffered immense casualties bringing troops to the border. I don't like that Mexico is pausing, but Canada isn't. Yeah, funnily enough, it looks like the Canada tariffs are still on, which is so funny. Okay, it looks like they're slated to speak at noon. I guess we'll see what happens. I've heard some people saying they don't... Dude, we can't... It's so funny, man. It's so funny, dude. I don't think the Canada tariffs are funny. Thank you for letting me know, Canadian Jables. Listen, okay, I'm an accelerationist now. I want this shit to burn down. You have to understand, though, that even if nothing happens, something still happened. The United States is irreparably damaging its reputation with nations abroad. Remember how during the first Trump administration, most other nations were like, okay, he's crazy, but like, we're gonna grit our teeth and try to keep this going? We are 2 weeks into this administration. I don't think that's happening this time. The EU and individual members of the EU already like saying, no, we're ready. We're ready for a trade war. Everyone is immediately sick of this shit, you know? Like there's not the same level of like kowtowing and complacency. Canada is fired up. Mexico is ready. Canada's doubling down. Canadian tariffs are not going away. They've canceled a $100 million contract with Starlink. Are now diverting all aluminum exports to Europe. That's so based. That's so based, man. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Claudia Scheinbaum's like, oh, you paused the tariffs? Well, we didn't. Oh, you're giving us a month pause on the tariffs? Well, ours still roll out on the 4th. So we're already ready for it, you know? I'll never make fun of Canada ever again. I will, but like, I'll put some respect in the name. This morning I saw a homeless person climb up a flagpole and pull down an American flag. People are very mad here in Canada. Masagui, if I knew you were Canadian, I would listen to you less. You've given away the game. Was it worth it for the one post? I'm an immigrant? I don't know what that means. As an American, if you're in America, you're an American. And if you're not in America, you're not an American. I don't know what that means. Chad has been calling Mexico weak. I think people who have any problem with what Mexico has done are fundamentally misunderstanding the nature of this dynamic. Mexico has lost nothing. Literally nothing. Moving 10,000 National Guardsmen? Nothing. They already have guardsmen up there. It's nothing. No loss whatsoever. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is blustering and desperately trying to build a narrative off of this while understanding that the actual economic consequences of tariffs to Mexico would be ruinous. Yeah, but Trump's going to spin it as a win? Trump could slam his dick in a car door and spin it as a win. Have you not been paying attention over the past 10 years? You could say that about anything. Like, don't be preemptively defeatist, you know? Like, you know, Donald Trump shit himself live during a White House press briefing. He was in the Oval Office and he shat himself. It was a loud, wet shit. You saw little brown specks fly everywhere. But he's going to spin this as a sign of confidence. Like, he's so confident, he doesn't need to get up and use the restroom. Like, he'll just do it there. That's like some LBJ shit, you know? He's winning. Like, yeah, okay, don't kowtow to their framing immediately, you know? Are immigrants at the border not in greater harm now that there will be 10,000 plus troops? National Guardsmen at the border are a virtue signal. The National Guardsmen, both Mexican and American National Guardsmen, do not have access to the legal or logistical pathways that ICE or Border Guard or whatever else would use to deal with migrants, immigrants, illegal crossers, whatever. Like, they don't have the ability to do any of that. They're literally just there to look spooky. I mean, they can like literally. Remember how when New York deployed National Guardsmen to the MTA, they just sat there playing Candy Crush on their phones, and anytime there was a fare crosser or whatever, they wouldn't do anything. They would call a policeman. Have you ever seen a video of a National Guardsman apprehending somebody for fare evasion in the MTA? Once. Have you seen a single video of it? No, because they can't. That's not their job. They're a National Guardsman. What are they doing with fare crossers? All they can do is say, hey, cop, someone's fare evading over here. I saw people in the grocery store today stopping each other going, don't buy that, that's American, it's very surreal. Honestly based.
Thanks so much. I want to turn to CNN's Kevin Liptak, who joins me now from the North Lawn at the White House. Kevin, there was also a call with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this morning. We haven't heard of any pause there, but there is supposed to be another one this afternoon. Is this just a bilateral Mexico-U.S. thing, or do we expect another pause also applying to the Canadians?
Yeah, at this point, this only applies to Mexico. And I'll tell you, after that phone call with Justin...
So now boycotts work, huh, Vosh? Well, that's not really necessarily the same as a boycott. That's more of a general, like, that's not company targeted. That's more of a, like, broad national, like, aid to tariffs kind of deal. But yeah, like, in some contexts they can. Kind of different circumstances. Slight difference between Canada having a nationalist revival in opposition to American fascism and people saying, if you buy anything from Nestle or any of their 100,000 subsidiary companies, I will dox your family and post a photo of your house to Twitter. You know, like there's just a slight tonal difference, I think, but you know, you can parse it if you want. Buy Canadian has good resources. There are some good, I'm speaking from a clothing perspective, but like Canada actually has a pretty robust domestic industry, you know? Obviously a lot of the stuff that Canada's known for clothing wise are like boots, winter gear, you know, of course it's Canada, right? It's cold up there. But they've got, you know, they're definitely not like ultra reliant on imports the way some countries are. They're resource rich, they've got land, you know?
Trudeau, officials I talked to on the Canadian side were not all that optimistic about a last-minute reprise from these tariffs. But of course, they have scheduled up this follow-up conversation at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and it remains to be seen whether Trump will extend the same 1-month pause on those 25% tariffs on Canada as he did on Mexico. One thing that we've heard from officials this morning is that the negotiations with the Mexicans that occurred throughout the weekend were going much better than the conversations were going with the Canadians. We heard that from...
Is moose meat cheap? No one eats moose meat because hunting them is so dangerous, you know? For every one moose you fell, you lose like 17 hunters. It's very dangerous.
Kevin Hassett, one of the top economists here at the White House earlier this morning. Now, I think the big question is whether or not this is a huge surprise. You know, we did hear from Donald Trump just last night that he didn't expect anything dramatic to come out of these telephone calls. But on the other hand, look at those numbers on the screen. The stock market, at one point, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down almost 600 points this morning. Donald Trump is attuned to...
The stock market fell a little bit, not a huge amount. I imagine it's going to start to recover now that people know there's a 1-month pause with Mexico. But keep in mind, like, and I guarantee you, you have to understand this, okay? No matter what rhetoric games they play, no matter how much they're like dancing around it in the public eye, there are literally millions of people all around the world that are waking up chuckling and going, he wouldn't actually launch a trade war with his closest trading partners, would he? For no reason? He wouldn't actually. It's just a bargaining tactic, right? But what you have to remember is, and maybe some people are kind of betting on this being used as a rhetoric game, you're still losing by playing this game. America is unambiguously the aggressor here, okay? By distancing itself from its allies, and God, I'm going to talk about USAID, okay? We'll get to USAID. But like, we are losing right now. Right now, what is Mexico losing? Nothing. What is Canada losing? Nothing. They're the good guys here. Meanwhile, literally all of our allies all around the world, Brazil, the EU, everyone are looking at us and going, we're ready too. Like, whatever, you want to fuck around? Okay. Yeah, you're a big economy. We're a big economy too. Let's see how it goes. Let's find the fuck out. Who do you think is more resistant to price shocks and hardships? Okay, Brazil, hailing from a continent where fucking double-digit inflation numbers are relatively common, where people live in their favelas and they have one motorcycle to maintain, or America, where people kill themselves if they can't get like 16 sweet treats from Temu every day. You know, I don't know. I don't think America has the sauce for this one.
Nothing more than the stock market, and I think there was a sense, at least among some of his outside allies, that he was looking for an off-ramp here. Now, one of the big questions in this tariff battle is what exactly Trump was looking for from Canada and Mexico. That had been a point of extreme frustration among Canadian and Mexican officials. What quantifiable metric did he want to see them take in order to ease off these tariffs? You know, just on Friday, a delegation of Canadian officials was here at the White House meeting with Donald Trump's border czar. They were supposed to meet around 4 p.m. Donald Trump at 4 p.m. says he wasn't looking for any concessions. So there was an incredible amount of confusion. Today, this morning...
Like shit like this, none of this is a win. It doesn't even matter whether or not, like, Trump's popularity declines from it. There are broader consequences to this.
I think we are getting a good idea of what he's looking for, which is troops on the border, 10,000 troops on the border that Mexico says it will send to try and cut down on those fentanyl flows. Phil.
We'll see what...
I hope Claudia sends more fentanyl. I know it doesn't work that way, but, you know, like spite move.
Canada offers in their negotiations, obviously 10% tariffs also on China. No indication right now of any calls there. Kevin Liptak, Valeria Leon, thanks so much. It is important to note that tariffs, as I noted, on China and Canada have not been paused, at least at this moment. That might explain some of the market reaction. We've seen a pop, but not an entirety of a turnaround. CNN business correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich joins me now. Do we expect a complete rebound here?
I think investors are being cautiously optimistic. This news, obviously, of this pause on tariffs with Mexico has encouraged investors, and you've seen markets recover just a little bit. They were down almost 2%, all of them, earlier this morning. But we've seen a pop. We've seen a recovery. But if you look at specific stocks, specific industries that were expected to be targeted with these tariffs, you see a mix. You see General Motors down over 2%. You see...
I'll see how things go with Canada. Anyway, that's enough CNN dick waving. Just look at the tone from the Truth Social post from Donald Trump on this. I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. I really like that. On the border separating Mexico and the United States. Like, clarify, you know. She didn't mean like their southern border. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a one-month period, during which we will have negotiations headed by Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent, and Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in these negotiations with Claudia Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. Please remember, 4 days ago, he was saying nothing could stop these tariffs. A little bit of a tone difference in this post, don't you think? Just a little bit? I'm not trying to, like, you know, overanalyze or anything. It's just like, you get me. There are consequences to this shit. Greenland to ban foreign political donations amid Trump interest. EU ready to react to unnecessary and stupid tariffs threatened by Trump, leaders say, as it happened. People in Canada are talking about joining the EU. No, yeah, I wouldn't expect that happens. As funny as that would be, I wouldn't expect that happens. Maybe everything that I said about NATO, like expanding to encompass the whole world, is just going to happen with the EU. Like the EU is going to eventually encompass like every nation except for America, but maybe Russia and China, basically. Yeah, the not my president bullshit is cringe lib shit. But like we're basically on like a giant, like we're all passengers on a giant like war machine that's rolling over the earth, trampling people. So, like I just feel like we shouldn't be dedicating too much breath to like, hey, I'm not at the cockpit, you know? Like, people know. They can see, like, if somebody accuses you of having voted for Trump, you didn't. You can say, like, I didn't. If somebody says, hey, you're the pilot, like, you can say, no, I'm not. That's not true. But the last thing, like, a Palestinian child hears before being ground to mulch underneath the treads of the war machine that we're currently on is like, hey, just so you know, I'm not piloting it. Like, okay. They can see you're on top of the war machine, not in the war machine. They understand you're just along for the ride. I'm just saying it's not, you know, it's not necessarily relevant or necessary. There was some really stupid online discourse of baby lefty Americans crying and begging Canadians not to counter-tariff them because they didn't personally do anything wrong, and they got replied to with 500 slurs from Canadians. Good. Listen, okay, you know how Trump supporters are going to cope, and they're going to say, like, paying higher prices is patriotic? I'm making that point, but from the other perspective, okay? Weathering the storm as America burns is virtuous, okay? As a American leftist, as when the prices rise and everything gets worse and the American empire kind of comes, like, you know, shaking at the knees, crumbling down, you like, that's your patriotic duty now. You know what I mean? You're out there being like, yes, $22 for a dozen eggs. Excellent. I will weather any hardship if it means America crumbles into dust. Absolutely. Better attitude to take, you know? Not even Grassley can take this shit. Yeah, he wants his potash. We get so much potash from Canada. We get, like, all our potash from Canada. It's like a fertilizer thing, right? Yeah, high prices on fertilizer. I don't know. I'm sure Kowalski's going to show up in 8 seconds to tell me what for. It's called potash? That's stupid. That's stupid. And I'm angry at you now. Who said that? Girl with a guitar? Any last words? They're right. When did I say they're wrong? Oh, man.